WNYC TV presents About the Arts with Barbara Lee Diamonstein.
I'm Barbara Lee Diamonstein, and our guest today is Marian McPartland, British pianist who's been one of the reigning queens of jazz for more than 3 decades. Marian McPartland has always been a pace setter as a musician, but it's her reputation as an educator that we're going to be talking about today. But first she's going to play Killing Me Softly for us from her Halcyon record album, a solo album at Haverford College. Marian McPartland. That was Marian McPartland, the Queen of Jazz, who is now playing nightly, except Sunday, from 9:30 to 1 a.m. at the Carlisle Bar, often called the Bemelman's Bar, in the Hotel Carlisle. That's at Madison Avenue and East 76th Street. Jazz is a unique American product, and Marian McPartland is a unique British product, born near Windsor Castle, as I recall, in Eastbourne. How did you ever become involved with jazz?
Oh, Barbara, if you got 3 or 4 days to spare. I started playing as a very small child, listening to my mother play, as a matter of fact. I must make one small correction. I was born near Windsor in a town called Slough. Eastbourne is where we moved later, just in case there's any fellow Britishers listening. But I did start playing by ear as I say, at the age of about 3, and then I didn't study until much later when I was at the Guildhall School of Music in London.
How did you become involved with jazz?
Listening to it on records and the BBC. I just absorbed everything I ever heard. And my sister had a boyfriend who liked jazz, and thank heaven for him, because I inherited the boyfriend and his records, which were mostly Duke Ellington and Art Tatum, Benny Goodman, all the jazz greats, and that's how I listened and learned a lot of it.
And then close to the end of World War II, you became involved with a jazz troupe?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's how I met my husband, Jimmy, was going over to France with the first USO group, and meeting him there. He came on special service and joined our group playing his cornet. They dragged him out of the front lines, and he was very happy about that, needless to say. And we were married over there, and really, I guess Jimmy is responsible Well, of course he is, for bringing me over here. And I had no idea that I would ever come to America or be involved in the jazz scene.
Well, besides working as an active performer in clubs and in concerts, and you'll be at the Carlisle until March
Yes.
before you start a concert tour.
Right.
Well, besides all of that, you've been carrying on a personal crusade to involve young people with jazz. And how and where and under whose auspices do you do that?
Different places, different things, different programs. I did one big program down in Washington through the National Endowment for the Arts, a 9-week program in the Washington Public Schools. Before that, I did a whole program in Huntington, Long Island. Actually, the guy who got me started was a man named Clem DeRosa, who is the band director at Cold Spring Harbor High School. And I started this whole thing about 1956 playing in a high school, and I just decided all the kids listening to Chubby Checker should instead know that there were some other kinds of music available to them if they cared to listen.
Are there other jazz musicians or organizations involved in that kind of program?
Oh, sure. I was by no means the first one. There's many, many musicians. Billy Taylor, of course, is one of the prime movers in this area with his jazzmobile and his personal concerts, lectures, and so on. He's been in it for many years, and now more musicians are getting into it, like Dizzy Gillespie. And I think it's important because it's the way the kids get to know and relate to these.
Can jazz be taught?
Maybe another way, can jazz be learned? Yes, I would say to anybody that can play an instrument, you can learn or have somebody teach you certain aspects of jazz, and then if you're motivated enough, you can go on and discover more for yourself, because really it's a kind of trial and error form of music that you learn mostly by listening and doing and trying out new things and expressing your own personality rather than playing a piece of sheet music, somebody else's music and somebody else's chords. You try to find your own self-expression.
How do you motivate them? How does one learn to listen?
Well, I guess nowadays I start out, if I'm playing for a group of kids, with first of all, it's something they're familiar with. I don't try to, quote, educate them. You know, I'll play something that they know, and then I say to them, now I'm going to play it a different way.
What do you generally play?
Oh, I play something like whatever is the current hit. Like for a long time I played You Are the Sunshine of My Life. In fact, I thought maybe I'd play that later, and because they all know it. And then I'll play it in different ways, maybe as a boogie-woogie, or much faster or much slower, and change key and do all kinds of different things. And I tell them to listen for other things that I might do. So this gets them listening for something. And then a lot of times I'll invite some of them to come up and join in playing drums or bongos if we have some instruments there for them. Get them to participate, or even just snapping their fingers or clapping hands.
Does the music have any lasting effect on them?
I think it does. There's so many kids that, when I first started this, that they still come around, and by now they're in college or beyond, and a lot of they'll say to me, "Oh, do you remember me? You played at our school." Or a kid will come up to me and say, "Oh, my brother says hello. You played for him 4 years ago," and so they do remember, and a lot of them do carry on through, and they go to music schools or colleges, and I keep up a tremendous correspondence and network with kids all over the country. It's amazing. A young drummer and bass player that I worked with, as a matter of fact, Clem DeRosa's son, Richard, is a drummer, and a bass player named John Burr, and they were so terrific when they were about 12 years old.
Where are they now?
John Burr is with Buddy Rich, and Richard is working. He's going to Jersey City College and playing a lot of jobs in his spare time, and he's worked with me quite a bit. He's now a young man of about 22 and very excellent player.
Is jazz in resurgence?
Well, of course, I always feel that there need be no resurgence because jazz had never left, but I think there are a lot more people becoming aware of jazz now than there were a few years ago. They're discovering it through records, reissues, and a lot of kids go burrowing through their parents' record collections and playing old
Are young people
records.
producing creative ideas of their own, or
Yes.
is this generation devoid of a jazz form?
Oh, no, there's a lot of very good young creative musicians. I could rattle off a few names, but some of them have not been heard of as yet, but there's one I know in particular, a pianist named Lyle Mays that I met when he was 15, and I think he will be somebody whose name will be known. There's a young man named James Williams in Boston.
To what musicians do you personally respond? Who have been the great influences on your musical career?
So many. Years ago, Teddy Wilson, Art Tatum, Fats Waller, James P. Johnson, and you know, I still listen to them. And of course, Teddy Wilson was one of my great friends.
You played with...
Yeah, I made a 2-piano album with Teddy, which was a thrill, of course. But I listen to things as they come along. I can't stop anywhere. I want to hear everything that goes on, and I listen to the newer people, Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett, Herbie Hancock, and I know a lot of their tunes. I love Herbie Hancock's Maiden Voyage, tunes like that.
What do you think of the fusion between rock and jazz?
Well, I think it's inevitable because so many of the elements in rock are really borrowed from jazz, and the rock rhythms. It's just, I don't know, it's just different names for things. Years ago they used to I think rock was called rhythm and blues. You know, it's still more or less the same thing, and it's all a part of jazz. I think the music coming out of the rock era is great.
Do you work with an electric keyboard?
I have one. I sometimes do, yes. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play a concert at Rikers Island in a week or two. I'm going to take it with me there.
Maybe you should tell us some of the work that you've been doing with that is involved with penal institutions. In fact, you have some arrangement now, I believe, with the New York City Department of Corrections. You have, haven't you performed at Attica?
Oh, yes, yes. I didn't realize that was the New York, yeah. Because I always have to laugh when I hear them call these places a correctional facility. I just love that. It's misuse of the language, but that's okay.
What do you call it?
Well, to me, it's a prison, is what it is, and the guys in there, I'm sure they know it, but they are the most fabulous audience. I love going there, and I've been there twice, and also to Greenhaven. Now I'm going to Rikers Island, and
When is that concert?
That is November 4th, and in between, in my spare time, I occasionally do a date for, I guess you'd call it a detention home for, you know, for younger kids. Unfortunately, there are many of these places in all the big cities, and the kids try to find out got there and why they keep coming back, why they can't rehabilitate them so that they don't come back. And I'm trying to think of an idea for some kind of program that I can do involving these kids.
Well, what do you have in mind? Has anything been formulated yet?
I haven't got it together yet. I'm still thinking, because music per se is not the answer, you know. But that's part of it, because I noticed that kids involved in music, they have something to be involved in, you know, and it's a total activity for them. Musicians, I don't think they get into as much trouble as other people because they're so busy practicing and playing and learning music and jamming and going to clubs and sessions, and it's a whole way of life.
How much time do you spend practicing? Do you still practice?
When I have the time. Lately I've been practicing on the job. I sit down and work out. Actually, that's a good way to do it, and sometimes I have the tape recorder, tape what I do, and
how many hours a day do you play? And this has been for all of your adult life, too.
it's really funny when I think of it. I've been playing for, I hate to say how many years, and probably only missed about 5 dates in my whole career through any kind of missing a plane or illness or anything. I would say it's an average of, well, now it's an average of 3 hours a night on this particular job, but usually it's more, 4 or 5. And years ago, when Jimmy and I worked together in Chicago, it used to be 5 or 6, working to 9:30 till 4 in the morning.
These were in clubs in Chicago?
Yes, we thought nothing of it, and then we'd end the job and go to another club here
and play some more.
And play some more. And I did a lot of listening in those days, more listening than playing, because there was so much I wanted to hear and to catch up on.
Who was playing there then?
Well, there was one group I was very affected by. It was Charlie Ventura with Roy Kroll on piano and Jackie Kane singing. They still are a wonderful team, singing better than ever. And people used to come to town, like Louis Armstrong. He was a good friend of Jimmy's. And I remember when the George Shearing group got started. Dizzy, of course, I used to go and hear him. Everybody, whoever came to town, I went to hear them.
What's it been like to be white, British, and a woman in a field dominated by black American male musicians?
It's funny, I don't know how to answer this question. That was probably the first write-up that I got when I opened at the Hickory House was
what year is
Leonard Feather, 1952. She has 3 strikes against her. She's English, white, and a woman. But somehow they never seemed like deterrents, actually. And in those days I was maybe more competitive than I am now, and I just wanted to be liked by all the musicians and to have the best men working with me that I could find. I guess I was a real female chauvinist. And I always
just
did
the
have
Queen of Jazz.
Oh, the Queen of Jazz. That's a terrible title. Nobody is.
How would you like to be known?
Oh, just as a jazz pianist, I think. Everybody. As a matter of fact, if I think of who is the real top woman pianist in jazz, if you're going to have to qualify it, I would say Mary Lou Williams. She's somebody I've known and loved for so many years. She's down at the Cookery right now, just fabulous. And I've got a lot of my inspiration from her.
It's unfair to ask. List making is never, very gratifying. What's your favorite record? Your favorite song?
Favorite song? I have so many. They come and go. You're putting me on the spot.
But at the moment.
Let's see.
What's the song of the week?
All in Love is Fair by Stevie Wonder. I just love that. And also, although probably I'll be considered corny for saying this, but Feelings is a pretty song to play and to work around. And then, of course, all show tunes, all perennial show tunes, like Funny Valentine. And
is that the one most frequently requested by audiences?
I think it's like this: Funny Valentine, Misty, Satin Doll.
How about Foggy Day?
Foggy Day, and then all over again. They could stand to hear Satin Doll all night long. And then Alec Wilder tunes, because I made a record of his music. A lot of people like, there's one man comes into the Carlisle every night to hear me play While We're Young. So I play it.
Does he come alone?
Yes, sits at the bar and I play this tune for him every night. It's kind of fun.
Let's get back to youth and jazz for a moment.
Okay.
What's the most effective level to reach children on? Is it harmonic? Is it rhythmic? Is it melodic?
I would say rhythmic first, because the most basic way they care to join in is either by snapping their fingers or maybe singing or clapping hands. You can always get kids to clap hands, although I noticed that in the rock era has made them all clap on 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4. Like they're going 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of 1, 2.
What's the most dramatic difference that you've seen in this 20-year period that you've been talking to school children? Other than this 1 and 3 and 2 and 4, in terms of the audience and its response and its interests?
I think maybe the last date we did in Washington, where I was able to realize one of my great dreams, which was to teach some little kids to play a simple blues. And we taught them Duke Ellington's Sea Jam Blues, and then to have him come down there with his group and play a concert for these same kids. And he was already quite ill when he came down there, but he did do the concert for me, and played to about 500 kids, and I don't think those kids will ever be the same again. And later we did a concert, and we got some of them to dare to improvise a little bit on Sea Jam Blues. We had the Navy Band. We played to 3,500 kids, and that was really one of the high points of my career with kids.
And you're going to visit another school system, and that will be this spring,
Yes.
and also in the South. And where is that, and under whose auspices, and what are your plans there?
This will be in Richmond, Virginia. Year before last, I was in Roanoke, and the same people, a lady named Betty Tyson.
That's the western part of the state. And then
Is
you'll
it?
go, yes.
You're from there. I get all mixed up when I go down to Virginia, exactly where I am. I was in Roanoke. Now I'm going to be in Virginia and doing, I think what I'll be doing is concerts and kind of workshops in the public schools and working with their bands and sitting in with...
In Richmond.
Yeah, and I'll bring some of my own band arrangements.
And how many children are involved? How long a period of time?
You mean for each
No,
one?
the period of time that you'll be there, and how many children come to these various sessions?
Well, I'll be there for 2 weeks.
And what age groups is this focused, directed towards?
I don't know what they have prepared for me. I think it's junior high and high school.
Is that the most receptive age group?
Sometimes it depends where. I've always found that the schools down south are just fabulous for being enthusiastic and listening and seeming very interested and attentive. It's not always that way. Sometimes you have to really put on a theatrical act and sort of sell yourself to some of these more blasé kids who, especially in this area, who sort of sit around and say, okay, show me something.
I hope that's not the case. Have you ever worked with the New York City school system?
No.
Would you be willing to do that?
I would love to. I did, actually I shouldn't say no, I did some concerts a few years ago with Joe Newman through Jazz Interaction, which gave me a little quick insight into the schools in Bedford-Stuyvesant. It was quite an experience. But I would really love to if it could ever be worked out.
What is free playing? And what is the difference between free playing and swinging?
As opposed to getting paid?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, free playing, swinging. Tell us what some of those terms mean.
Well, free playing is, or the way I interpret it, is playing without a key signature or any set melody, just kind of playing in a tonal, totally unstructured piece or phrase or whatever. I mean, I could sit down and do one for you, which would just come out of my head and have no key signature, and you couldn't snap your fingers, or it would just be sort of totally off the wall.
Well, perhaps you'll do that now. Would you like to do that?
Sure.
And while you do, I think I will, why don't you remove that microphone, go back to the piano if you will, and while you are doing that, I think I'll quote a line that Marion McPartland said, that was quoted in a New Yorker profile of her. And she said, swinging, and we'll soon see what she means, is like being on a tightrope. A roller coaster. It's like a souffle, she says. It rises and rises and rises and rises. And now Marion McPartland is back at the piano, and before she does one of her free playing things, I wanted to tell you that she's one of the few women who has her own music company. And that's Halcyon Records. And for those of you who are interested in either some of the records we've mentioned or some that you may know about, or would like to see the catalog, that's available by writing to Box 4255, Grand Central Station, and that's Halcyon Records. There aren't many more pleasant ways to spend part of an evening or part of your afternoon than listening to Marion McPartland, and we're going to do that right now. Or you can do it any evening by going to the Carlisle Hotel, any evening except Sunday, that is, from 9:30 to 1 a.m. And now Marion McPartland playing for us. And thank you, audience, for being with us.